Alright, so let's talk about time and money. How much this costs and how long did it take? Let me pull up my spreadsheet. But before I get into the cost, as far as time, I think this would be possible to do if you had all the tools like engine hoist and the transmission jack and all that stuff ready to go. And you had all the parts necessary, right? Like already, like ready, ready to work on. I think you like a normal person could probably do this in a weekend, honestly. If they'd be long days. You'd be putting in 10, 12-hour days. But you could get it done in a weekend, just swapping out the bottom end or even with the top end as well, if you don't break the cam caps like I did. It's really not that hard. Difficulty level, I would say I guess I'd give it like a 6 out of 10, right? It took me a lot longer because I was, waiting on parts. I didn't know what parts I needed, so I would order them as I went. So it took me a lot longer. It took me probably over the course of a month on the weekends. And I didn't really work all day, usually on the weekends. I would work maybe 6 hours at the most, like on every weekend day. So Saturday, Sunday, it'd be like a total of 12 hours. And it took me about a month, so I guess what is that, like 40 to 50 hours maybe that's into it. But at the same time, I was also messing around with doing dumb stuff like the short throw shifter, taking my seats out and like dumb shit like that. So if you're not doing that kind of stuff, then and you're just only focused on the engine, then you could probably cut that time in roughly like half, I would say. Like at the high end, I would give it like 30 some odd hours, and on the low end 24 hours. So a weekend definitely is possible, and a long weekend, a 3-day weekend, is definitely, like, I would say 100% doable. So the cost, so we have the engine cost me $355, which is pretty cheap. That's including tax and everything, but I picked up locally, so there's no shipping cost involved in that. So $355, and then VCT delete I actually didn't end up doing because I swapped the head. So, but that was $35. But I'm not going to count that towards the total cost it would cost. The balancer delete, I did that, so that's $35, right? So what is that, $390 so far? And then I replaced the radiator, but you don't have to. But that costs $180, an all aluminum core radiator for a V6 Ranger. But you don't have to do that, so I'm not going to count that. I bought an intake adapter, obviously for the 2.5, right, to swap to the 2.3 to, adapt to the 2.3 manifold. But I didn't end up using that either. So that was $60, but that doesn't count either. The short throw shifter was $250, but that you don't need that as well. You do need the timing tool, that's $15. I bought a crank pulley for a Fusion or a Focus or something, but you don't need that. You could just reuse the Ranger crank pulley. So that was $100 that I spent that, I'm not getting back. I guess I could return it, but it's been a while now. And then I had to replace my coolant tank. I bought a new oil pump, which you don't really need to do because you could just reuse the Ranger one. But it is probably safer to replace that while you're in there. And like the rear main seal if you need to do that. But my engine only had 40,000 miles, the one that I bought. So I didn't think it was necessary, but I did buy an oil pump. That's $65, so I'll count that. The gasket was $5, the oil pump gasket. The pickup tube gasket, I bought a new one. That was $5. Sensors that I ended up not using, and if your sensors are good, you shouldn't need to replace those. You do need to buy a pilot bearing. That's $15 because my old pilot bearing was destroyed. And then I bought a new clutch and flywheel, just to replace while I was in there. I mean, you don't have to do that either if you don't want to, but that was $300 for that stage 2 clutch kit, and it's actually not that grabby once I was driving it. The crank bolt and washer was $20, right? I bought a new belt, but your serpentine belt you could probably just reuse, but that was, it's good to replace it though, so that's $30. I bought a new head gasket, that was I think like $60, and I bought ARP head studs. But you don't have to. That was $185 for ARP head studs. But you could just buy regular head bolts from Ford and replace existing ones. Those are stretch to torque, or what do you call them? Torque to stretch or whatever. So they're only one-time use, so you got to replace those. I'm not sure how much the stock ones are, the Ford ones. The head bolts are probably around 50 bucks probably, but the ARP head studs are 185, so I'm going to use that number. Oh, I bought some new gaskets for the intake manifold and the exhaust. That was 50 bucks, but you don't really have to do that. You can just reuse them. I actually ended up reusing the gaskets from the Fusion block. I ended up buying a bunch of crap from the junkyard just to test fit and, you know, mess around with. But you obviously you don't have to do that. You don't need any of that. So I would say on the high end, you would need 800 bucks, and that's kind of what I have written here on my spreadsheet. Total needed, if this will focus. Total needed 800 bucks, and my total actual spend so far has been 2,200. But that's including like the short throw shifter, and I bought let's see here, the radiator, the intake adapter, all that nonsense, the clutch. I bought a head gasket, a different one that I'm not using. I'm actually using a Molly one right now, and all this stuff. So pretty much you could it's 800 bucks for a new engine, 40,000 miles, to bring life back into your truck. Like, you're not going to be able to find a used car for 800 bucks with 40,000 miles, you know what I mean? So it's definitely worth it, especially if you love your truck, or if you just need a truck, kind of, you know. Why, like, mine was not in running condition, but let's say it was, I could maybe sell it for maybe 2 grand, maybe more. I mean, used car prices are pretty high these days, so I might have been able to sell for 3, let's say. And then, but can you pick up a you know, 40,000 mile Ranger for 3 grand, another, you know, or 3,800 or whatever, right? 800 bucks on top of whatever you got back? I don't think so. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. So I think this is very economical. I mean, if you want a new car, that's your choice. Like, you can get a new car. But for me, you know, a pickup truck is a pickup truck, you know? Like, I don't really care. And this truck gets good gas mileage, and it's good. It's decent. I've really kind of liked the Duratec engines since I've had this truck. Kind of have a respect for them because they don't really need a lot of maintenance, and they're pretty good for what they are. They're not like super powerful or anything, but, you know, and they're not that hard to work on, I would say. So it's just the interference type of engine where you have to get the timing exactly perfect and all that, but it's actually not that hard. If you have a manual, just reading the manual makes things really easy. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess in the next video you'll see me chopping up some seats and trying to get that to work in here, because I'm still sitting on the cinder block. And man, not having a back support is really weird when you're driving, like, just to be kind of floating there. No wonder they don't put stools in cars, because having that back support is really nice. I didn't realize. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video, and thanks for watching.